We'll do it live.
No.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and
that is it for us today. I'm
Bill
Stewie Griffin.
O'Reilly.
Thanks
again for watching.
We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Take it away.
Want to learn about Venezuela? I'm getting the board. Whoever said teaching wasn't physical? All right, people want to know about what's going on between the United States and Venezuela, but in order to understand what's going on today, you need to understand what has gone on before. That's why history is so important, guys. Come on. Venezuela and the U.S. I've decided to do this chronologically because I feel like doing history metaphorically difficult. Number 1, pre-1998. Pre-1998, Venezuela had a huge oil supply, actually, biggest in the world, and the biggest stakeholder was a U.S. company called Exxon. Why is this important? Because of their huge oil supply in Venezuela, Exxon took it over. So the vast amount of profit, the percentage of profit, went to the U.S., and Venezuela as a country got next to nothing. And because of this, their economy started to fail. And as their economy started to fail, guess what? A dictator waiting in the wings wanted to jump in and save themselves from God knows who. Oh, from the United States. How do I get stake in oil companies is taking over the entire world? Number 2, 1998. That's not right. I hate it when I can't write numbers properly. Hugo Chavez was a democratically elected president of Venezuela. Now, once he got in, again I say democratically, he started to push towards authoritarianism, and he started reducing the checks and balances of the democratic system. Side point, does that remind you of anybody else? He also started to rewrite the Constitution to solidify his dictatorial power. Parallels are really uncanny. In 2002, a woman named Maria Machado, ignore how I said that, but keep that name locked in your head because she's going to be important later, created an organization called SUMAT in order to overthrow the Chavez government. Psst, who do you think was funding her operation? You guessed it. George W. Bush, President of the United States at the time, was funding her through the National Endowment of Democracy. You know what? People just make up names to mean anything nowadays. So through this National Endowment for Democracy, the United States funded Machado in order to overthrow Chavez. And when it didn't work, Bush said, "Not my problem, I didn't know anything about it." And she was eliminated from all political life going forward. And then, in 2002, Bush was a very busy guy. Number 4, in 2007, Chavez, reinvigorated with power and an authoritarian regime, decides to nationalize Venezuelan oil. Ruh-roh. That meant that Venezuela took all of Exxon's money, all their oil, and all their access to oil, and shifted the lion's share of profits back to Venezuela and left Exxon, well, not a lot of money. P.S. Exxon then sued and won $1.4 billion in a claim. But what kind of international police force are we going to get for Venezuela to be forced to pay Exxon? None. After that huge shift of economic power, Venezuelan oil dropped from 3 million barrels a day way down to 700,000 barrels a day due to corruption and, let's be honest, informal sanctions put on them by the United States because they just stole a bunch of their money from corporations. Stole might be a U.S. word, considering the oil was on Venezuelan land and considered a Venezuelan resource, but who's counting? The U.S. really does imperialism out of 10, don't they? Ooh, new chalk. Number 5, a guy named Madero used to be the VP of Chavez, takes over, and he starts building an even stronger authoritarian government. I forgot the year. 2013. Obama calls the drug cartel and this particular regime a threat to democracy and national security of the United States. That's then followed by Trump putting on economic sanctions in 2017. Are you with me so far? This is about to get interesting. Interesting, I mean even more corrupt. 2025. I brought you right up to the present. Maria Machado, remember I told you to remember that name, wins the Nobel Peace Prize. And who does she dedicate it to? None other than Donald Trump. And it's at this point that Donald Trump begins attacking boats, Venezuelan boats, calling them drug cartels, talking about revitalizing and restoring democracy to Venezuela, and talking about how they're a threat to national security. And guess what? The U.S. got to go in and save some people. Oh, and P.S. Donald Trump wants his oil back. It's the ending that's really going to get you. The big question about why Donald Trump is doing this is why, and I think the answer is going to surprise you a little bit. Number one, he is going to claim that he is going to liberate Venezuela. Guys, always be careful when the United States of America liberates anything, because usually it means they're going to take it. And he's going to install Maria as the president, formally excommunicated from all political life, but she's going to serve a purpose. Number two, Machado will then give oil rights back to, you guessed it, Exxon. 80% goes to them, 20% back to Venezuela. Everybody's happy and a new power is installed, but that's not the only reason this is happening. This last one's going to blow you away. Number three. Is it about oil? Absolutely. They want control of the world's biggest oil supply, but that's not the full answer. What the real answer is U.S. currency rates. Follow along, this gets tricky. Oil has always been traded in U.S. dollars, called petrol. And what that has served the United States in doing is solidifying, is stabilizing, is increasing U.S. dollars. Because if anybody wants to buy oil anywhere in the world, they have to use U.S. currency. It artificially inflates the price of the U.S. dollar and stabilizes the U.S. economy. This is the real problem. Because what Trump and the United States is really afraid of are BRICS nations. What are they? They are nations, they are countries that have gotten together and are starting to trade without the United States, especially oil, and not use the U.S. currency as their trading denomination. And that is going to possibly submarine the U.S. economy. So is it about oil? Sure, but what really it's about is about the United States being able to control the entire market of trade when it comes to oil, thus inflating and propping up the U.S. economy. So when somebody says, is it about the oil? Say sure, but that's just a vehicle for them to control everything else.
Estamos, el pueblo en la calle. El pueblo en la calle indignado, molesto. Aquí estamos. No nos vamos a retirar de la calle hasta que sepamos de nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro Moro. Nuestra vicepresidenta pidió una fe de vida. Nosotros estamos en la calle pidiendo la fe de vida, que nos devuelvan a nuestro presidente, que lo han secuestrado.
Cuba condena y denuncia esas acciones como un acto de terrorismo de Estado, un asalto criminal contra nuestra América, zona de paz, una violación de la soberanía de una nación que es símbolo de independencia. Estados Unidos no tiene autoridad moral ni legal de ningún tipo para sacar de su país por la fuerza al presidente venezolano. Pero Estados Unidos sí es el responsable ante el mundo de la integridad física de Maduro.
When the news broke that Maduro was captured, there was this overall sense of relief amongst people. People started messaging each other, just kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's happening. Something that the Venezuelan people were waiting for so long finally took place. And then now, after hearing Trump's press conference and everything he was saying about taking over Venezuela and kind of governing for the next few little while, uncertain of the timeline, all of that started creating this bitterness, excitement, just like a sour taste in people's feelings here in Venezuela, at least. It felt like a little bit of a slap in the face. People were excited of like, okay, Trump is going to help us get rid of this regime. And then now he's talking to people within the regime from last year when there was another election where he actually lost, but just claimed himself into power anyways, as a dictatorship does. I think people were just slightly making mockery of these images that are being shared of Maduro. Some people are saying he's finally getting what he deserves. He had like a water bottle in the images, and so people were sending on WhatsApp like, oh, don't even give him water. So I think overall there's this sentiment of relief. In a sense, it's like, wow, something did actually happen, but now everyone's like, okay, how are we going to move forward from this, and what does this actually mean for us inside of the country and outside of it?
He does have to watch his. He has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave.
Exigimos la inmediata liberación del presidente Nicolás Maduro y de su esposa Cilia Flores. Único presidente de Venezuela, el presidente Nicolás Maduro. Tenemos el deber sagrado de resguardar como es nuestra independencia nacional, como es nuestra soberanía, nuestra integridad territorial que ha sido salvajemente atacado. Nosotros estamos listos para defender a Venezuela.
So we're kidnapping foreign leaders and installing new leaders and calling that what? Like, who the fuck cares about Venezuela? I'm sorry. It's not about drug trafficking. The drugs don't come from Venezuela. They come from Mexico and China, okay? Donald Trump, they come from China through Mexico, and they come to the United States. But we, there's no thought about, taking out the Mexican president. No, we'll take out. Maduro said, you can have the oil. It's about oil. It's about oil. And what this really shows me is that the scariest thing of all is that Donald Trump is listening. Like, he ran on, okay? Remember, I'm not a Trump voter, not a Harris voter. I said both were dangerous for democracy, and I'm opting out of the system. I did a write-in, okay? Like, that's the way that I engage these days. Because, like, I'm not playing these blue and red fucking bullshit games anymore, okay? But he ran on deporting the criminals. Now he's taking every Tom, Dick, and Sam, Larry with a Spanish accent. And we're fucking kidnapping foreign leaders and their wives and calling it captured by the U.S. Navy. Okay, well, how about what if Russia's like, I'm gonna capture Donald and Melania and install someone else? You know what I mean? Like, I just, literally, I'm watching, last night I started watching the cover-up about Seymour Hersh and about Vietnam and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, look at, why the moment that people wake up and start realizing that the United States we are not the good guys. Why do you think the world hates us? Why do you think everybody hates us? Why do you think people don't like Americans? Okay? Why? because we pretend we're the good guys when we're really the bad guys. Remember, he ran on ending foreign wars. The American people don't want this. Leave other countries alone. Like, I am starting to be more isolationist. I really am. Like, people can't pay their bills. Rent is fucking 10 times the average salary. People can't buy houses. They can't have more than 2 kids because they can't afford daycare. And everyone's complaining about the Minnesota fraud. Valid. But how about the fucking Department of Defense and the fact that now we're engaging in military action in Venezuela when nobody in the country wants it? Nobody here wants it. Nobody. Who does this benefit? Not the American people. People need to wake up.
Okay, sorry I got cut off. I want to make sure I got this out. Trump is basically saying that, basically admitted that he took over a foreign government, that he basically kidnapped the president and brought the president here. And then he said the quiet part out loud that we are going to use their oil and we're going to sell their oil. Now, this is not American oil that's being sold. This is Venezuelan oil. Basically the same thing that Dick Cheney tried to do when it came to Iraq. Basically the same thing. Now, me personally, this whole thing here ain't going to end well. Now, y'all can take it, leave it on how you guys want to or whatever. But this here ain't going to end well. Good night.
I'm in Cúcuta on the border between Colombia and Venezuela, and you can see behind me that the Colombian government here has upped its troop numbers amid fears over a destabilized regime in Venezuela. They're concerned, of course, for their own country. This is a part of Colombia where left-wing rebel groups, particularly the ELN, move between this porous border and have been traditionally closely aligned with the government of Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela. There are concerns by the government of Gustavo Petro in Colombia that will bring the conflict in Venezuela, or the potential impending conflict, over the borders here into Colombia too. Furthermore, the government here is concerned about the influx of immigrants and refugees fleeing potential violence in Venezuela. More American intervention leaving this city, which has been inundated with refugees in the past, again stretched to breaking point, as those refugees maybe come this way en route to the United States. All of that isn't clear whether or not it will unfold. For now, the Colombian government is taking preventative measures. Really, though, the main concern is the other side of the border, in Venezuela. Few journalists can get in if they are not Venezuelan, and currently only a trickle of traffic is coming backwards and forwards. These are the people who move back and forwards over this border to buy food, to work on either side, the normal movement of traffic in either direction.
We don't want them to impose a Yankee government on us. We are free and sovereign. We are a people with guarantees in the Bolivarian Constitution. We are a free people, free and sovereign. Donald Trump is not going to take our oil. Rubio is not going to govern us. We have a president and a vice president who will assume for now, but our president is Nicolás Maduro.
Here is the great motorized force of Caracas. We took to the streets of Caracas to tell the world to raise their voice about the kidnapping of our president. And we won him back, damn it. Long live the homeland, and long live Maduro.
Compré un poco más de lo que normalmente compro. Por supuesto tampoco hay dinero para comprar demasiado, pero un poco más de lo acostumbrado.
El pueblo va a estar en la
calle resistiendo, exigiendo nos devuelvan a Nicolás.
No sabía qué es lo que estaba pasando. Yo pensé que era que el cerro se estaba cayendo. Yo siento miedo por mi vida, yo siento miedo por todo lo que pase, bueno o malo, yo siento miedo igual.
Todo dentro de la Constitución. Lo aprendimos del comandante Chávez frente a las vicisitudes. Si hay algo que el pueblo venezolano y que este país tiene muy claro, es que jamás volveremos a ser esclavos. Es que jamás volveremos a ser colonia de ningún imperio, del tinte que sea.
Was a season where we don't have electricity, like in your area, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you are not going to have electricity in your house from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. And on Wednesday for 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And we live with that for so long. Same with the water. The water is coming just 1 hour, 12 to 1. You need to take all the water that you need at that time to drink, to clean, to shower, to do everything in 1 hour. We won't need to say goodbye anymore to our families in the airport. Tell them see you soon, knowing that it's a lie because you don't know how long it will happen until you see them again. We celebrate them because we grow up normalizing things that could never be normal, like going to the supermarket and don't find nothing on it, like have all the money that you have in your pockets but you want to buy food and it's no food in there, knowing that you need to go and do lines at 4 a.m. in the morning, huge lines to get a bag with food, knowing that it's no medicines in the pharmacy and you need to find antibiotics in Facebook. Narcoterrorism, corruption, he stole billions of dollars. He killed a bunch of innocent people in protest. He put on jail, he tortured. Venezuela have one of the biggest torture places, recruitments in the world. Yeah, that very old wise, he's still doing that. He destroyed every democratic institution that can exist in Venezuela. We vote. We have presidential election and he lose and he don't want to leave the power. So what's no other way to take him out? I am more than happy because we tried everything. This was like our last hope. This is what we was waiting for and finally happened. And I am more happy because I feel was a smooth intervention. I thought was going to be more chaotic like with Panama years ago, but no, they reached 2 a.m. in the morning. By 3 a.m. they take the man out. They don't kill nobody. It's not even a civil person dead. So yeah, I am. A lot of people asking about the oil. All the Venezuelans know that Trump is doing this because the oil. We know this. We know that Trump is not doing this because I love Venezuelans and I care so much about them. We know that it's about the oil. But we are right now giving our oil to China and Russia and we don't see benefits from it. The country is destroyed. We have nothing. We need to leave and run away and live somewhere else because there's no opportunities there. If the United States want to go back and do it, but it's China, Russia, whatever doing right now, go back. Because when the United States was there and was Halliburton and all these American companies in Venezuela, we were rich, we have money, we have opportunities, we have everything. All the Venezuelans that leave the country because this man and this man regime can go back home. You don't have idea of all the Venezuelans that want to go back home. You think like we love that in Trinidad they tell us Venice go back home or they treat us bad. It's not just in Trinidad, sorry. This is like across the world because I understand we are everywhere. We are everywhere because we was forced to be everywhere except home. I had more comments to answer, but a lot of the questions are about the oil, so I want to tell you this. Put yourself on the shoes of an actual Venezuelan person. Put yourself in my dad's shoes that worked 3 years to build something, that study hard and work hard, and then one day for the other lose everything, have no job and have no option because at his age he cannot leave the country and start to work somewhere else because he's an old person, right? He don't lose just his job, he don't lose just the money, he lose his family because he can see his daughter just one time per year, because his daughter need to leave the country to look for a better future. And this is not, I am not talking about my dad, I am talking about the reality of every single Venezuelan person. Like the dad of the person that clean your house, your taxi driver that probably is an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, that reality.
Indignado, molesto, aquí estamos, no nos vamos a retirar de la calle hasta que sepamos de nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro Moro. Nuestra vicepresidenta pidió una fe de vida, nosotros estamos en la calle pidiendo la fe de vida, que nos devuelvan a nuestro presidente que lo han secuestrado.
I went online and I was like looking at all the news, and I was just like with like the feeling of I want to cry, but also I'm happy. I'm hoping for peace of all, for being able to celebrate with my family and reunite with my family there, still have family there, and to see them again.
Was the administration justified in this case in not briefing Congress?
Well, there's been no evidence that the administration has presented to justify the actions that were taken in terms of there being an imminent threat to the health, the safety, the well-being, the national security of the American people. This was not simply a counter-narcotics operation. It was an act of war. It involved, of course, the Delta Force, and we're thankful for the precision by which they executed the operation and thankful for the fact that no American lives were lost. But this was a military action involving Delta Force, involving the Army, apparently involving thousands of troops, involving at least 150 military aircraft, perhaps involving dozens of ships off the coast of Venezuela and South America. So, of course, this was a military action. And pursuant to the Constitution, only Congress has the power to declare war, to authorize acts that take place in this regard. And we've got to make sure when we return to Washington, D.C., that legislative action is taken to ensure that no further military steps occur absent explicit congressional approval.
Yesterday, the individual who represents the people of Venezuela as their president was abducted. President Nicolás Maduro Moros is the constitutional president, elected by the people for the term 2025 to 2031. President Nicolás Maduro is the genuine, authentic, constitutional leader of all Venezuelans. So, we here in the Bolivarian National Armed Forces demand the immediate release of the constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
So tell me about that transition. What kind of support do you need to keep the country together, to prevent another refugee crisis? And do you have that pledge from the American government now?
We will need a lot of support, advice,
information technology, not only from the United States, also from multilateral organizations, some of which we are already working together, not only in security issues, but power supply, food supply. How do we bring, put order in our financial accounts? How do we restructure our debt? How we open markets for international investment and give security to international investment in oil and gas, in infrastructure, critical minerals. I mean, Venezuela is unique in terms of the amount of the natural endowments we have. And, we're located at 3 hours by plane from Florida. So it's hard to think, in this shortening of the supply chains that is in the nearshoring process taking place, a better ally in the region than Venezuela. And at the same time, turning Venezuela from the criminal hub of the Americas into a security shield for the United States and for the rest of the region is a top priority for all. So, we have the plans ready. We have the teams ready. We know what we have to do the first 100 hours and the next 100 days. But most importantly, and I want to insist on this, we have the people.
Would that include U.S. peacekeeping troops or other troops on the ground?
I cannot answer that question right now. I don't think that's the case. There are other countries that have offered support as well in order to strengthen democratic institutions once the government-elect is in place. But that we will have to address that once we have the government-elect in place and put in order, bringing order back to our country. And one thing that you mentioned before about the refugee crisis, it's going to be exactly the contrary. The day Maduro goes, you will see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan migrants coming back home from the United States and all over the world. I mean, our diaspora is desperate to go back to Venezuela. So even from that perspective, it is a win-win situation to have democracy in Venezuela.
I rise today to sound the alarm on the military buildup in the Caribbean, edging us closer to a regime change war in Venezuela. The Trump administration has sent the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier, our largest aircraft carrier. 10% of our Navy is in the Caribbean, including destroyers and submarines. We've got 15,000 troops in Florida and Puerto Rico, including Marines, who are ready for amphibious landings, and we have F-35s and B-52s flying across the Caribbean and Venezuela airspace. We do not need, after Iraq, after Libya, after 20 years in Afghanistan, after Yemen, another regime change war. It's time for the American people to oppose a regime change war in Venezuela.
24 hours later, and we have more questions than answers. Rubio completely fucking dropped the ball on Meet the Press. Couldn't answer straightforward questions. Still have no idea what they were talking about, how we were going to run the country. Now it's the policy we're running, not maybe so much the country. When asked if, the rightful winner of the election last year would be put in place, no, that's not happening. Nobel Peace Prize winner, she's out. She did piss him off. No idea. Now, obviously, the vice president is running the country. That is who is running Venezuela right now. But this administration can't. They make decisions with no forethought. 24 hours. Think they'd have enough time to sit in a room and put a fucking story together. They've already seen the pushback. And that's what they're doing. This was all a test to see how the world is going to react. I won't be surprised when China takes Taiwan in the next couple weeks, because now they're emboldened. Poland, get ready.
What do you make of this? It's a very, very big development in a months-long effort against Venezuela.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to hear what the president has to say in his remarks from the White House that are planned for just a little under an hour from now. Ali, I feel like in your heart of hearts, when you think about what the United States just did, I think there are very few Americans right now who have any idea why the United States did this. If this was about drug trafficking, then why did President Trump just pardon the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of sending hundreds of tons of drugs into the United States? If this was about something about the illegitimacy of Maduro's election, well, that's something that the U.S. is, decrying any other country policing. We just sanctioned Brazil for having tried to protect itself from a coup by its former president, Jair Bolsonaro. I mean, if it's about gangs, we had the president of El Salvador, who is believed by U.S. law enforcement to be very linked with the notorious gang MS-13, which has caused incredible damage in the hemisphere, including in the United States. He's invited into the Oval Office, and the president says that he's looking forward to sending homegrown Americans to that president's essentially, jungle concentration camps. So all of the purported explanations for what's happened here don't stand up to logical scrutiny. The president has never articulated a coherent rationale for having done this. This seems like Marco Rubio's dream, not Donald Trump's dream. So I'll be very interested to hear what the president is able to piece together in terms of an articulable rationale for having done this. That said, he's done it. And so, in the immortal words of General Colin Powell, you break it, you own it. And it's one thing to do that on the other side of the world. It's another thing to do that so close to home here in our hemisphere. I don't know if they have any plan for what to do now that they have invaded, bombed, and removed the president of that country. But I'll be happy to hear an America First rationale for it, whatever it is.
My grandma, my family, I have many people that died because the situation in Venezuela, many people, this impact us in a way that you cannot imagine. We never will imagine that this will finish in this way, but we are very happy, and we now are in peace because we can come back, and we will come back to Venezuela to rebuild our country, to make a better Venezuela.
We've been fighting for more than 2 decades to try to overthrow this dictatorship. While it looks like they're just invading and, wreaking havoc in a country, that's not the case. No one else has done anything to break this dictatorship that's had us under terror, under torture, has led the economy to the ground. No one else has done anything. So whether it's the ideal outcome for some people or whether it's not, the fact stands that this is the only opportunity that we have had to actually get freedom.
We don't know when is your last day when you live there in Venezuela. You don't know if you're going to make it home, if you go to uni or if you go to buy bread, So I think we've been living scared for so long, and that's why we're not scared to open up our mouths right now and say we're happy, we're celebrating that Maduro what was taken, and we're really excited for what's come for Venezuela.
It's not about the president of Venezuela, it's about what's happening in Latin America. That a country can come and take on to a president and take him away. It's about the sovereignty of a country that needs to be left alone. The country can resolve their own issues. I think the issue of or the reasons for this of saying that it's to do with drugs is not true. This is about oil, and it's about taking the resources of the country.
The State Department warned U.S. citizens in Venezuela to shelter in place this morning. And the U.S. Embassy in Colombia is warning Americans not to travel to Venezuela.
The situation in Venezuela right now could turn very volatile. I have been hearing reports from people who are truly afraid that any expression of support or even sharing the videos of these strikes that they themselves documented could make them a target of the regime. So far, since these strikes took place, we have heard from the Minister of Defense in Venezuela, who declared a state of emergency, a state of exception. He said that every military force in Venezuela will be deployed across the land. At the same time, he's calling for people to not fall into anarchy or chaos. The Minister of, it's an odd name, but a popular Minister of Justice, basically the de facto second or third most powerful person in Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, also spoke out and called for calm. But people in Venezuela who have been under this regime for decades understand that at a moment like this, any expression of support for the actions of the United States could be very dangerous. That's why that message is going out to U.S. or even or other ally citizens in the country to be very careful. I have interviewed people very recently who are allied and supportive of the regime, and they say we are willing to fight. We're willing to give up our lives if we have to support this regime. There may be an expectation that because there is an opposition that won an election last year, according to the voter tallies that they presented, to the evidence that they presented, and have been acknowledged by the international community as the legitimate government of Venezuela, that doesn't mean that this will be an easy transition. There are armed groups, there are armed guerrillas, and the government of Colombia, I spoke yesterday with the Minister of Defense of Colombia, which is, borders Venezuela. The government of Colombia is deploying their military to the border to both deal with any possible migration crisis that could emerge now after what happened last night because of the bombings or the taking of Maduro, or because they fear that those armed group, the armed guerrillas, in particular the ELN from Colombia, which has been historically allied with forces in Venezuela, could retaliate. So it's a very dynamic situation. The opposition has not wanted to say anything. They have not responded to my request for comment yet. I assume they're waiting to hear from President Trump.
Just wait for Cuba. Cuba is a communist dictatorship that's killed priests and nuns. They've preyed on their own people. Their days are numbered. We're going to wake up one day, I hope in 26, in our backyard, we're going to have allies in these countries doing business with America, not narco-terrorist dictators killing Americans. This is a big frigging day. And everybody in the world is thinking differently than they were just a few days ago because of what you did.
Cuba is ready to fall.
Yes.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
There are questions about what happens next in Venezuela. The president said today that the U.S. is going to be running the country. What does that look like? Does that mean we're going to see Americans on the corners of Venezuela, in the government of Venezuela? Are you prepared to have troops on the ground in Venezuela?
Well, it means we set the terms. President Trump sets the terms, and ultimately he'll decide what the iterations are of that. But it means the drugs stop flowing. It means the oil that was taken from us is returned ultimately, and that criminals are not sent to the United States. It means that foreign countries don't have a lodgment inside our hemisphere. So ultimately, we're going to control what happens next because of this brave decision. President Trump has shown American leadership, and he'll be able to dictate where we go next.
So, Mr. Secretary, then, by your words there, I imagine you are prepared for a full-scale U.S. intervention to stabilize the country of Venezuela if asked for by the president. If that comes to pass, will you ask Congress for approval? Do you believe legally you need to ask Congress for approval?
Well, we're postured, and the president said the blockade continues, no oil going in and out, no drug boats allowed to traffic in the Caribbean or the East Pac, so we're still poised there. This was a law enforcement exercise. It was the Department of War in support of the Department of Justice pulling out an indicted person who ultimately will face justice, and Marco was clear there that this is not something you notify Congress about beforehand, but were there to be more or extensions to this, of course we'll keep Congress involved. They're our partners, and we would do so.
Susan
charge of Venezuela right now. Have you spoken to the newly sworn in president there, Rodriguez?
We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
No, I haven't, but other people have.
Do you want to?
Yeah, at the right time I will.
Do you see that pushback from Rodriguez and ultimately...
Well, I don't think there was pushback. I think that,
She
frankly,
called it...
well, you know, you hear a different person than I hear.
Really? So you have spoken with her?
We talked to them, yeah.
Oh, you did speak with her?
They've been very good.
Because she called it kidnapping of Maduro.
It's all right. It's not a bad term. Go ahead.
Okay. As a Venezuelan American, I got some shit to say. My family, my parents, my sister, my extended family, all lost everything. Their work, their savings, their investments, gone. Wiped out by a narco-dictatorship that has held Venezuela in a death grip for over 25 years. And what happened to my family has happened to millions, and yes, millions. The Venezuelan exodus is the second largest displacement crisis on earth after Syria. This is not just a tragedy. It is one of the great humanitarian disasters of our time. But the suffering doesn't end there. This regime has jailed hundreds of political prisoners. Thousands have been murdered simply for speaking out. More than a third of the population has fled. 1/3. Not for better opportunities or for the American dream, but to survive. To live. Because staying often means death. And while the world may see Venezuela as a collapsed state, what it is in reality is an occupied one. Our territory, our natural resources, and our institutions have been overrun by hostile foreign powers. Iranian militias, Chinese corporations, Russian intelligence, all exploiting our country with impunity. Venezuela is no longer just a local crisis. It is now a geopolitical threat that endangers the entire Western Hemisphere. It has become a launch pad for an authoritarian expansion in the Americas. And in the midst of all of this, one woman has dared to lead the charge for freedom. Maria Corina Machado. In 2024, against every odd, she led a peaceful democratic uprising that won the election. Her team smuggled physical voting receipts out of the country, hard proof of victory that the regime tried to lure. Her courage has lit a fire in the hearts of millions of Venezuelans, desperate to believe that change is still possible. But now some have questioned her decision to dedicate her Nobel Prize to Donald Trump. Okay, I get that. But here's the truth. It was a brilliant strategic move in the global chessboard of politics. Maria Corina is no fool. She knows exactly the kind of man Trump is. She knows how much he campaigned for it, loudly and relentlessly, to win that very same prize. She knows how symbolic and personal that recognition is to him. And precisely because of that, she understood that this gesture might be the thing that keeps his attention focused on Venezuela at a time when U.S. presence and pressure in the Caribbean is rising. She didn't dedicate that award to flatter him. She did it to protect and preserve the one kind of power that could help shift the course of history. Because for her, this isn't about pride. It's not about optics. It's about freedom. And let's be very clear. Maria Corina is not asking for the U.S. to invade Venezuela. She's not campaigning for war. Venezuela is already invaded. It is held hostage by a narco state, overrun by foreign agents and enemies of democracy, Russians, Iranians, Chinese, all operating freely, weaponizing our land and resources to expand their influence across Latin America. What Maria Corina is calling for What millions of Venezuelans are praying for is the support of the only military on earth capable of countering that threat and helping to free our people. This is not imperialism. This is liberation. She's not playing partisan games. She's playing for Venezuela's life. Because this isn't theoretical. This isn't academic. This is life or death. So yes, it is time to honor her bravery, but more importantly, it is time for the world, especially the free world, to recognize what's at stake. The fight for Venezuela is a fight for freedom, for democracy, and for the stability of an entire continent. If we truly care about liberty, human dignity, and peace in the Americas, then Venezuela's fight must matter to all of us. Que viva Venezuela, que viva María Corina Machado.
I met Susie a second ago. Susie, one of the people out here with the Venezuelan flag. You were born in Venezuela.
Indeed, I was.
What did you think this morning? First of all, how did you find out?
Well, I actually found out through my family in Venezuela almost at 2 o'clock in the morning. She called me extremely scared. Well, actually, she doesn't call me at that time. She called me and she says, oh my God, listen, she was crying and I literally heard the bombs and the airplanes and she was crying. And then I said, don't hang up on me. She goes, I'm not. And she went off and she said, we have no power. Then I tried reaching my father. I reached another family member. They were all without power. I couldn't get a hold of them until 5 in the morning.
How do you feel now?
Oh my God. Listen, this is a bittersweet sensation. Why? Because sweet, because look at us. I mean, this is amazing. Finally, we saw Maduro, thief, coming down. You know, literally leaving Venezuela. However, bitter because I wish my family was here. I wish I would be able to hold them, Brian, and literally, you know, have this emotional time with them and hug them, you know?
You were just watching the phone. You were watching News Nation as we're waiting to see Maduro come off the plane. Yes. What does that feel like?
Oh my God. Listen, like again, it's an emotion. Listen, look at my eyes. I've been crying so much because Brian, he stole from us. Not only him, Chavez. It's been 26 years. Listen, my grandmother passed away 3 months ago. I couldn't even go see her. I was raised in this country. But the fact that I don't have a Venezuelan passport because we cannot enter with our American passport, just like Cubans, how sad it is.
And just lastly, Susie, so people can understand, your dad worked for the oil company there,
yes,
and they took everything from him.
They took properties from my family. Yes, they did. The government did that, yes.
Imagine what your dad would think.
Well, imagine it was very sad, yes. My dad worked hard for that, yes.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you so much.
What's up, y'all? What y'all doing? I'm gonna tell y'all like this. Trump is a gangster. 100% gangster. Before Trump did an airstrike on Venezuela, he had this to say to the president over there before he did the airstrike.
Reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to fuck around with the United States.
Damn, he said fuck around and find out. Now fast forward to today. Trump has did a airstrike on Venezuela last night while we was all tucked in our damn beds. He was up doing some work. I don't know how that man do it. Do he sleep? After he caught the president from Venezuela, what his name is? Nicolas something? Whatever. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The thug of Venezuela. Trump took all the damn oil. I can't stand that man. And a reporter asked him, what was he going to do with all the oil that he took from Venezuela? And this was his answer.
Yes.
Speaking of Venezuela, oil, what are we going to do with the oil that we have?
Going to do with what?
The oil that has been seized. The United States seized 1.9 million barrels of oil on December 10th.
We're going to keep it.
Trump was like, fuck that shit. It's ours. I'm going to keep it, sell it. I can do whatever the hell I want to do with it. It's ours now. That shit is so gangster. Trump is a cold-hearted gangster. And I love it.
Well, breaking fuck the news. Hello, I am home. I have left the club. I have gardened. And yes, I have a little bit of Crown Royal. And I am 100% going to continue the party. This is all the information I can give you as of yet. Venezuela accuses U.S. attacks on Caracas, Miranda, Aragua, and La Guardia. I'm probably saying these wrong. I don't want to butcher these names. It has been confirmed that the United States has 100% conducted military strikes into Venezuela at many different locations. There is footage all over X, CNN, now Al Jazeera, Reuters, Fox News. Okay, there's people evacuating the cities. There's nationwide curfews. Apparently, Maduro has called for the mass deployment of the defense systems in Venezuela. Soldiers are on the streets. There's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of misinformation coming out for the next couple hours until the White House or Donald Trump decides he wants to go on Truth Social, or until somebody speaks in front of everything. The Pentagon is refusing to answer questions. They're referring all questions to the White House. The White House will probably not report on anything until the United States troops are out of the area. There are mixed reports now also. I will give you the mixed reports that they're saying that there are boots on the ground of U.S. troops, Air Force, and stuff like that. But there is actually no verifications that this is going on as of yet. There has been no word from Maduro directly, other than Maduro stating that he condemns these actions. Also, the neighbors of Venezuela are also condemning these actions, and they're at fear for the civilians and the people in the areas. Venezuela is already saying that civilians were also harmed in this. One of the major military bases in Venezuela was also struck. We're in it now, everybody. There was no congressional approval. There was no talk amongst the committees for there was nothing. There was no conversation. It just happened. And here we are at 3:55 in the morning. Trivil's at the club. If you don't believe me, go look at my last couple videos. But we're in it now. America, are we great yet?
Hey everyone. Well, as I'm out and about this Sunday getting ready to head back to DC, I wanted to check in, give an update, and give you a few of my reads and hot takes on the news of the day. It has been a fascinating news day to watch as the Trump administration has fanned out across the Sunday shows and the media, attempting to defend their actions over the last 72 hours. And I really want to break down what we're seeing, where the arguments fall apart. And really, I want to applaud the journalists who have been holding this administration accountable. Some of the interviews that I saw today were just fantastic. That is why a free and fair media is important, is to ask the hard questions. And just really grateful to everyone out there for your work today. I want to just start and say the obvious. You know, I think that you can't look at the situation in Venezuela and not celebrate that Nicolas Maduro has been taken out. I mean, obviously, he was a brutal dictator who committed human rights violations, who weakened the democracy and rule of law of Venezuela, who committed atrocities of his own people and oversaw an economy that collapsed, that led to the suffering of literally millions and millions and millions of Venezuelans out there. And so I completely stand in solidarity and enjoy with people who are celebrating that he has been taken from power. But the bigger issue here for us here in the United States is about how it was done and what the implications are for an administration that has already been essentially violating its fundamental responsibilities to the American people, the Constitution, the rule of law, and now is suddenly engaging the United States, using the United States military in the kinds of wars that Donald Trump said that he was not going to do. So I want to just break down a little bit about the bigger picture. And it was interesting to me today to watch as the administration tried to claim over and over again that this was just a law enforcement activity. And I want to explain a little bit about why that is such a problematic assessment. Now, it's very clear that this administration is trying to manage their legal liability using the internet. They're looking at Twitter, they're looking in real time at how people are responding to what they're putting out there. And what they saw is that obviously the large-scale deployment of the military is a violation of the U.S. Constitution and law. And even though they had initially made the argument about this being a law enforcement action, they really leaned in there today. But here's the thing. The president himself went on Fox News this morning and in detail explained the way in which the military was deployed and the kinds of resources that were deployed. And the president himself, the night of the invasion, talked about it as a large-scale military effort. And so while all of his people are out there trying to spin the spin cycle, he is literally undermining their very argument by bragging about the way in which they use the military to conduct this invasion, occupation, and removal of a foreign leader. Secondly, Donald Trump went on this crazy media presence yesterday where he basically said, it wasn't even the quiet part. It was the out loud part out loud, which is that they went in to take the oil. Now, I think what is stunning about that is that anyone who is a student of American history knows that the United States, in many armed conflicts and interventions in other countries, has undertaken regime change or military efforts to try to take over the natural resources of other countries. But the president of the United States is literally telling the American people that he did it for the oil. He literally said that. And I think it's important that we remember that when Donald Trump was candidate Donald Trump, he met with the largest oil and gas executives in the United States at Mar-a-Lago. And if you recall, he literally told them that if they gave him $1 billion in campaign donations, he would deliver for them. Now, it's important to understand that Venezuela nationalized their oil reserves. And when they did that, they kicked American companies out of Venezuela. And Venezuela has one of the largest oil reserves on planet Earth. And we also know that Venezuela was engaging in new potential deals with China and other export countries that are in direct competition with the United States. And so Donald Trump is telling the American people that he used the U.S. military and U.S. FBI and law enforcement agents to take out a foreign leader illegally so that the United States and our oil companies could take over essentially oil markets in Venezuela. He said that. I can't emphasize, they're not even pretending, right? Now, his people are going on these shows and on the media making the argument that they did it for law enforcement because that's their legal cover. But the president is being clear about the real motivation, right? The real motivation is to take over and make billions of dollars off of oil and gas. And already it was announced today that not only are oil and gas companies, American oil and gas companies, planning to go into Venezuela as part of this rebuilding effort, but venture capital and large investors, Wall Street investors, are also gonna get a piece of the action. This is why they really went in. So I think it's really important that people really understand that the administration is using narco trafficking, is using these charges as a way to justify regime change and taking over the natural resources of Venezuela. Now, I also want to talk just for a moment about what it all means both for Americans and for the people of Venezuela themselves. Under the international system that we've had since the end of World War II, there have been both international laws, norms, and rules been in place to maintain peace, to recognize the sovereignty and self-determination of all of the nations of the world. And by the U.S. blatantly violating international law, whether it was a limited law enforcement activity, which we know it wasn't, or it was a military action, essentially abducting a foreign leader, they did not use the international legal system to either extradite Maduro and prosecute him, nor did they follow the rules of engagement. And in doing so, basically what this administration is saying is that they don't have to follow the rule of law, whether that's the rule of law here in the United States or the international rule of law. And that makes the world less safe, because what the president and his administration are saying openly is that, in fact, Donald Trump himself said this. He said this: nobody can stop us. And he and Marco Rubio are now talking about going into Cuba. You have administration officials saying they're going to invade Greenland next. This is not the end. This is the beginning of what they view as a new doctrine of using the United States military to invade other countries illegally and take them over and take their resources and to establish an American sphere of influence throughout this hemisphere. And they're not hiding it. They're not hiding it at all. So we need to be straight about what they are actually doing. It's important to cut through the noise and understand that this wasn't just a law enforcement activity to address narco trafficking, which I hope it does, because obviously we need to protect Americans and ensure that people are safe. But that's not what this was. Because if it was, then the President of the United States would have gone after other countries, other terrorists, and gangs that are engaged in large-scale narco trafficking, and the president would not have pardoned one of the most notorious heads of state narco traffickers in American history, who was the Honduran president, who he pardoned just a few weeks ago during Honduras's election. So I think when you start to zoom out, you really see that there is a lot more going on here. And finally, I want to talk for a minute about what this might actually mean for the people of Venezuela. We want the people of Venezuela to have opportunity, self-determination, for their economy to get fixed. But I think it is very, very, very important that we ask hard questions right now. Donald Trump says he wants to run the country of Venezuela. This dude can't even run the United States right now. He couldn't even run his own businesses. He ran them into bankruptcy. What? And ultimately, we know that this president has also been attacking Venezuelan immigrants here in the United States by seeking to revoke the status that was put into place to make sure that Venezuelan refugees were protected here in the United States. And we know that they have undertaken a mass deportation scheme that has violated the human rights and due process rights of many, many, many immigrants across the United States. We also know that they did not, in this extraction, arrest other individuals who were complicit in the crimes of Maduro. In fact, his own vice president, who is also under indictment, was left in place. And so in the coming days, it's very important that we ask questions about the future, about what will happen to the people of Venezuela, not just in country, but also in the diaspora here in the United States, and to make sure that their interests, that their self-determination, and that their future is determined by the Venezuelan people. So Those are some of the things that I think are really, really important to focus on. And finally, I just want to say this. Donald Trump campaigned on ending forever wars, lowering the cost of everything, and fixing the economy. And he has been in power less than a year. And he has now bombed, in 1 year, more countries than any president in the history of the United States. He's completely messed up the economy for working people through his illegal tariff schemes, through the largest wealth redistribution in the history of this country, by giving the largest tax breaks to billionaires ever in American history, by taking away health care, food assistance, attacking vital programs. I mean, he has been disastrous for the economy. And literally the cost of everything is up right now. And so in addition to all of these other questions we need to be asking is, why is Donald Trump every single day betraying the American people? And I think we know. He answered it in his own press conference. He's in it for his friends, you guys. He's in it to help the oil executives and the billionaires that hang out at Mar-a-Lago and come and kiss the ring. He's not there for the American people. And so we stand with the American people. We are fighting to address these issues. We are fighting to defend the Constitution and the rule of law. And as we return to Washington, D.C. this week, we are going to defend this country. So that's your update. That's my hot takes. Lots going on. I will see you guys in the coming day. All right. Bye, everyone.
I mean, is anyone going to just stop for a second and be honest? This is insane. What the hell are we doing? I mean, we've got a lot of problems in America today, and invading, occupying, running Venezuela does not solve any of them.
As well, say, hold on a second, do we want to start another war?
Good question. Well, I don't think it's very America first to let a narco-terrorist state with an illegitimate government that's aligned with China and Russia and Iran do things in our hemisphere that we don't like, with drugs or anything else. I don't think we like it that they're trying to go into Guyana right now and take over their oil either. And so the president's position has always been, this is the Western Hemisphere, we're going to police it, and we don't even recognize these guys as a legitimate government. And so he's trying to bring about a situation where the worst people in the hemisphere are not enriching themselves, not distributing drugs. And if we wind up with a legitimately elected government there that's aligned with the United States instead of Russia, China, and Iran, that's America first.
I'd love to add some facts to this.
I see you leaning in, John.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Delcy Rodriguez, who is the acting president of Venezuela right now, put out a message, and it says this: a message from Venezuela to the world and to the United States. Venezuela reaffirms its commitment to peace and peaceful coexistence. Our country aspires to live without external threats in an environment of respect and international cooperation. We believe that global peace is built by first guaranteeing peace within each nation. We prioritize moving towards balanced and respectful international relations between the United States and Venezuela, and between Venezuela and other countries in the region, premised on sovereign equality and non-interference. These principles guide our diplomacy with the rest of the world. We invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence. President Donald Trump, our peoples and our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war. This has always been President Nicolas Maduro's message, and it is the message of all of Venezuela right now. This is the Venezuela I believe in and I have dedicated my life to. I dream of a Venezuela where all good Venezuelans can come together. Venezuela has the right to peace, development, sovereignty, and a future. Delcy Rodriguez. Don't forget, click that follow button to stay up to date. I also have a free email newsletter I send out every morning. It's a great place to get information from me, and I cannot be censored there. The link is in my profile. Hope to see you there.
Bro, fucking nothing matters. Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio will be the two people working as a team with the Venezuelan people to be the new leaders of Venezuela until a new person is picked. A fucking Fox News host.
Donald Trump is losing it right now as his invasion of Venezuela did not go as planned. Sure, he captured Nicolas Maduro, but Maduro looks happier than ever. He's given the cameras the thumbs up sign as he is in the federal prison in New York right now, and he was walking into the federal prison wishing people Happy New Year's. And I guess Donald Trump just thought, what, the people of Venezuela were going to be like, hey, Donald, let us give you our oil. You can run Venezuela. As Democratic Congress member Eric Swalwell said, I'll play this clip in a little bit. He said, Donald Trump couldn't even run a casino. You expect him to run a country like Venezuela of 28 million people? The people of Venezuela do not want Donald Trump to run or operate Venezuela or occupy Venezuela. We're hearing from the former vice president, now the interim president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, and she's saying that she absolutely does not want Donald Trump to be occupying Venezuela. She says there's only one true leader of Venezuela, and that's Maduro. Also, the governors of the various regions loyal to Maduro, at least as of this recording, show no signs of surrendering or just handing over Venezuelan oil to Donald Trump. At the same time, Donald Trump threw the main opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, under the bus. I mean, people expected that she was going to be the person who would be installed as the new leader of Venezuela. She was the main opposition leader. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, she's someone who's supported by the Europeans, the Canadians, Australians, and others as a pro-democracy voice. That's, at least, I'm just letting you know how they describe her. There are people who describe her differently, but I think she expected that she would be the new leader of Venezuela. But Donald Trump says the people of Venezuela do not respect Maria Corina Machado. He goes, she's a nice lady, but she doesn't have what it takes to actually rule and lead Venezuela. Trump says that he wants to be the one ruling Venezuela and occupying it for some uncertain period of time in order to take their oil away and give it to the American oil companies. I mean, I just think that Donald Trump probably cut some deal with Putin and Xi Jinping that he would take the Western Hemisphere and Xi Jinping can have Asia and Putin can take all of Europe, and they would just share the spoils of invading all of these nations and extracting resources. What other justification can you have for Donald Trump's, the way Donald Trump is behaving right now? It just seems to make sense if you kind of put those puzzle pieces together right there. Now, Donald Trump's been making deranged post after deranged post all night. I'm talking about like 100 post. And he's making posts like this again on a day where the United States invaded a country, Venezuela. Donald Trump says it is an occupation to take their oil and that he's going to run it for an indefinite period of time, right? While the American people, I guess, want to see like some semblance of stability here, this is what Donald Trump is actually posting on his social media platform. Donald Trump says the CIA overthrew the 2020 election, and that's why he lost in 2020. This is a real post that Donald Trump made. Donald Trump reposts an account that says the Central Intelligence Agency toppled the United States government on November 3rd, 2020, live on national TV. And Donald Trump says 2.7 million Trump votes were deleted by Dominion. In 2026,
Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why we need to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox Business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity.
Well, they're just saying the quiet part out loud. That was Republican Representative Maria Salazar admitting on national television that the party of no new wars is about to send our children to the slaughterhouse for big oil. As an Iraq war veteran, I feel like we've done this already. And this slip up is obviously not really being covered by right-wing media outlets. As we can see on the ground news bias distribution chart, only 17% of right-leaning media outlets are covering this. I love ground news. I use it to argue with my formerly MAGA father. That's right, formerly MAGA. Together, we analyze each story's biases and we use the blind spot feature. And that makes it almost impossible for us to stay inside of our algorithmic bubble. And then we argue. And I usually win that argument because my dad went from burning masks in Florida to sending me this text message right here. It's hard for me to say I'm wrong, but I was wrong about this creep. If you go to ground.news/CFH, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan. That's the same plan that me and my father use. It would make a great Christmas gift for your Trump voting family. Love you, Dad. Super proud of you, man.